scripture this morning, the Old Testament scripture, just kind of picked up from yesterday's, on the video that I did yesterday about the deceit and the scheming and the plotting of Jacob's mom, and how that she wanted her husband Isaac to send Jacob away. Well, this morning's scripture in Genesis picks up where he's been sent away, and he goes to his mother's brother, Laban. I'm probably butchering all these names just simply because I don't hear them said that much. But this morning is whenever I read, because I was familiar with the scripture, I thought it rather ironic that, and I kind of had an idea what the video was going to be about, because, I mentioned in a previous video that you reap what you sow. Well, this morning's video is Jacob reaping what he was a part of before he left his home with his mom and his dad. So we're going to pick up in Genesis chapter 29, and he's met Laban, which is Rebecca's brother, and Jacob has actually stayed with him for a month, and it starts, verse 14 ends with, and he stayed with him a month. Verse 15 is picking up where I'm going to read. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my kinsman, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to any other man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife that I may go into her, for my time is completed." So Laban gathered together all the people at the place and made a feast. But in the evening, here's where Jacob gets a reaping of something. Someone's doing something to him. So let's see, verse 23. But in the evening, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me?" He worked 7 years for his wife, and then he got tricked, and instead of the one that he worked 7 years for, he got the other one. Didn't acknowledge that what he had done to his brother and in deceiving where he came from, but yet where he went to, the family bondage of tricking and deceiving, and it goes into explanation here in 20:26. Laban said, "It is not so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn." So he gave a reason. He gave a legitimate, legalistic reason why. "Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also in return for serving me another 7 years. So that was 27. And then verse 30. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and served Laban for another 7 years. So he served 14 years to get the one that he loved, but yet he got deceived into his wives, and he ended up with 2 wives instead of 1. That should just give you an inclination, an idea there that, yeah. And here it gets even more interesting. Verse 31 and 29. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And then it goes in the next few verses that Leah conceived and gave Jacob 4 sons. And then tomorrow's reading is going to pick up, and I'm not gonna keep rehashing, because this is a whole family drama issue that just kind of, as I said in the description yesterday, a lot of the Old Testament stuff can pretty much reflect some of what goes on in modern day now. But verse 30, chapter 1, that is part of tomorrow's reading. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Verse 2. Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" And then it gets interesting in tomorrow's reading too, and I'm going to try not to continue with that one. But if you just really want to dive in and see how interesting it can get, just read those verses along that. But I want to end this video on some of the New Testament reading from Matthew chapter 9. And a lot of people have heard this about the laborers. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And I just wanted to read that and then to end the video on those scriptures. It's Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38. And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction. When Jesus, saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Verse 36, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. That kind of goes into the community of believers. Sheep without a shepherd, harassed and helpless. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. And unfortunately, we have those that they only see the harvest in their little small section. They don't go beyond. Whenever somebody, like the sheep, it says the sheep without a shepherd, the sheep being harassed and helpless. Unfortunately, you have those that God brings into the fold to put them in community. And there are those that feel like that the church is a country club, and it's not a hospital for sinners. It's not a hospital for the harassed and the helpless. It's more of a name for themselves. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And in the video on that note, I pray that God continues blessing you, protecting you, drawing you to him, and putting you in a community of believers where you can thrive, not just survive, not just pass through on fumes, but where you're an active participant and you're welcomed into not used as the example for finger pointing. With that, I will talk to you in another video. Have a good one.